Hey everyone, Sylvie here. My voice is still not 100%, so I do apologize. I was not actually even planning on doing a video in regards to any cases tonight. I actually wanted to do my first random rescue session so that you guys could see a little bit more what the work that I usually do outside of YouTube is like. But then I received a message from someone that was saying that new information had come out on the Kiely Rodni case. So, of course, I immediately went out and looked, and the very first thing that comes up is that AWP has released their full interview of Nick, the tow truck guy. Now, up until this point, I haven't really said a whole lot about Kiely's case. I did a tribute video to Kiely. I explained a little bit the relationship that I felt like I was able to build with Kiely through various conversations in the months after her death. I briefly stated what I thought about the circumstances of her death, that I think it was only accidental in the sense that the people involved did not intend to kill her, but that it was very much at the hands of someone else, that it was not just an accident, and I believe that there was a lot of corruption and things of that nature, but I didn't really go into any detail. This video is not going to be about any visions. I know that's going to disappoint some people, but I'm not going to talk about that at the moment, and towards the end of the video, I will explain why, or whether I'm even going to do that at some point. This video is basically just my reaction to the full interview being released and some issues that I have with what's being said in the interview itself. So the first thing that I do want to say is this is all my opinion. This has nothing to do with anything that is potentially factual. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. This is just what I feel, what I think. And if your opinion differs from that, that is absolutely fine. But once again, please just be respectful in the comments, okay? I want this to be a channel where we can openly discuss our differing opinions and not have to have it turn into anything dramatic, okay? So this is 100% my opinion. Nothing that I'm about to say should be taken as fact. And on that note, I'm not even sure what we can consider to be facts in Kiely's case because of the fact there's just been so much weird stuff going around and so much misleading information, right? So anyway, let's jump right into this interview, okay? I have to say that something always struck me as a little strange with the whole interview in the very first place. Like when it very first came out, not anything to do with this most recent thing. And that's not, I'm not being disrespectful to AWP or to Nick the tow truck guy. I am not saying that Nick the tow truck guy is lying. I am not saying that AWP is lying. Okay, something just felt off about it to me. I'm also not saying that this did not occur, that Nick the tow truck guy did not see or do some kind of service call on Kiely's car. Barring any feelings that I may have had, or any visions that I may have had, or anything that I might claim that Kiely has told me herself, there were still things that didn't sit right with me right from the very beginning. And I've mentioned before that outside of all of my crazy wackadoo stuff, as I like to call it, I am actually a very logical person. I'm also a very scientifically minded person. So when things don't make sense to me in those realms, it's hard for me to let that go, despite the fact that I'm a very spiritual person and I don't always believe that everything can be logically, scientifically explained. I kind of have these two sides to myself, and that's kind of why I like to do these videos where I'm just giving you my views and rants and I'm not actually talking about any visions or anything like that. So the very first thing that I'm noticing in this most recent release of this video is that when Nick the tow truck guy is first describing Kiely's car, he misspeaks and he says that it's a sedan. And he does not instantly correct himself. The people from AWP actually correct him and say, "Oh, you mean SUV?" And I'm not saying that that's significant in any way. I'm just saying that I know people misspeak. I misspeak. I've had to put notes in my videos after I go and do my editing because I realize that I misspoke about something. So I'm not saying that it's impossible that he just misspoke. But I don't know. it was strange to me, like maybe his memory was not as accurate as he claimed it was. So that's not even the major point that we need to discuss here, okay? This, in my opinion, the main issue that we need to discuss here is the fact that Nick, the tow truck guy, is claiming that Kiely's car was in neutral, and that the whole reason that the car would not start is because the car was in neutral. This is something that has always bothered me. I have said before that I don't know a lot about cars, so I did have to go out and look up some information, but I did also enlist the opinion of my husband, who has been a mechanic since we were 16 years old. So he's been working on cars for 30 years, and he's one of those crazy people who like just remembers everything that there is to remember about a car. If he's worked on that car, he remembers things about that car. And then he also knows a lot about cars in general. So I went and I did a little research, and I also enlisted his opinion. And it turns out that what he's saying about the car not starting because it was in neutral, that does not make any sense. So what my husband was able to tell me was that there is a thing called a neutral safety switch, which is applied to many vehicles, especially quote-unquote newer vehicles, which would apply, in my opinion, to Kiely's car because her car is a 2013. So, once he told me, hey, this thing can exist, I said, okay, and I went out and I did a little research. Does a 2013 Honda CR-V have a neutral safety switch? And here you go. I have a picture of my internet search. I'm sorry, I had to do it as a JPEG. I couldn't get my screen record to work properly, so I just had to do it as a still JPEG. But you guys can still look and see what I was able to pull up here on the basic screen, that I'm showing you right now. It says right there. So basically what it's saying is that, yes, the vehicle does have a neutral safety switch, but it's also saying that the purpose of the neutral safety switch is to prevent the vehicle from starting in any other gear besides park or neutral. Basically, what it's saying is that when a vehicle has this neutral safety switch, the car will only start in park or neutral. It won't start in drive. It won't start in reverse. It won't start in any other gear. I don't know if the car has drive 1, drive 2, whatever. But it doesn't matter. Regardless, the vehicle will only start in park or neutral. So to me, that is a huge red flag, huge, because this guy is saying, well, Kiely was out there. He seems positive that it was Kiely. She was out there all night and they couldn't get the car to start. And the entire time the car was just in neutral. Well, that's not true. That's wrong. The car only would have started in neutral. So my husband did point out the fact that maybe the car wasn't in neutral. Maybe it was like stuck a little bit between gears. So maybe it was like a little bit in drive or a little bit in reverse, like it was in the middle and it wasn't actually in the proper neutral slot. That's not impossible. It's not impossible. But Kiely she was a very, very intelligent girl, and I have a very difficult time believing that she sat out at Boca Reservoir for an entire night and never once noticed that her car was in neutral or wasn't in proper gear or something like that. It just seems really weird to me. And then it's just the simple fact that, this guy is supposed to be someone who works on vehicles all the time, but he's insisting that the vehicle can't start in neutral. But when you go out here and you do the research, within 5 seconds of doing the research, it shows that the vehicle is designed so that it only starts in park or neutral. So I don't understand that. That's a very strange thing to me. I just feel like somebody who does the kind of work that he does should know something like that. Now, here's the other thing that I find that's contradictory to what he says. Nick, the tow truck guy, claims that he checked out the entire vehicle and that everything seemed to be in fully functioning order. Okay, so now it's not impossible that Kiely's neutral safety switch was malfunctioning. And if it was malfunctioning, then maybe the car wouldn't start in neutral. But in Nick, the tow truck guy's opinion, the car was 100% fully functioning and it didn't seem like it had anything wrong with it at all. So I think that he's contradicting himself there. You know, he's saying, oh, there's nothing wrong with the car, but then at the same time, the car wouldn't start in neutral. Once again, it's just my opinion. I think it's strange. Okay, so another thing that Nick talks about is that the thing that stuck in his mind that made the situation seem so strange to him was that allegedly Kiely, kept asking him about the seatbelt. She kept asking him how to properly fasten the seatbelt. Now, this is not impossible, okay? If this was in fact Kiely that he saw, which I'm extremely questionable about that, it's not impossible that she was uncomfortable, that she was, worried or trying to get away from whoever she was at, and she was trying to give the tow truck driver some kind of a sign or something that she was in trouble, and that's why she was acting weird. That's why she was asking weird questions and quite frankly behaving strangely. That is absolutely possible, and I do find it to be plausible that someone would be doing something like that, especially a very intelligent person. They would be trying to find ways to cryptically tell someone that they were in trouble rather as just coming flat out and saying it. But the issue that I have with the story that Nick is telling about the seatbelt is that you pretty much just have to presume that the seatbelt that he's talking about is the driver's seatbelt. Because he doesn't specify, well, what seatbelt is she talking about? Is she talking about how to properly fasten the driver's seatbelt? Or is she talking about how to properly fasten that weird seatbelt that's in the middle, in the back? The one that you have to pull out of the ceiling and then you connect the lap belt on one side and then you pull it across your lap and connect it on the other side. Which seatbelt is she talking about? And some people might think that that's not significant. But if you know that later on down the road when Kiely was found, when her car was pulled out of the reservoir, that seatbelt in the middle that I'm talking about, that one in the middle, that seatbelt was hanging out the back of the hatchback. I don't know if you still call it a hatchback when it's an SUV, but anyway, you know what I mean. The back door, it was hanging out of there. It was looped through and hanging out. So I find it to be a weird coincidence that he's mentioning a seatbelt, and then later, after Kiely was found, there was also a seatbelt hanging out. Maybe that's just a strange coincidence, but I don't honestly believe in coincidences, so I don't know how coincidental that could have been. And I'm not saying that the tow truck guy knows anything about that, because this interview was supposedly right before Kiely was found. So he wouldn't have known anything about a seatbelt hanging out the back of the car or anything like that. So I don't know. Something about that is strange. I'm not doubting that a strange conversation like that took place. I'm just not 100% certain about what Nick is actually saying. Okay, another thing that I find to be relatively contradictory, in my opinion, is Nick, the tow truck guy. I don't mean to keep specifying that, but one of the members of AWP is also called Nick, or his name is also Nick, so I don't want to confuse that. I'm always talking about the tow truck guy, okay? So anyway, he claims that basically what they're showing in this interview, we have to assume that they showed him a picture of Jagger, because they don't actually show us who they're showing him a picture of, and they don't say the person's name or anything like that. And I get that. I didn't expect them to. But he's basically positively identifying Jagger, we have to assume, in this interview. But then he goes on to say that, well, his hair was just sticking out a little bit out of the hat, so his hair must have been pulled back underneath the hat. And that actually isn't that big of a deal to me, because it's not impossible that Jagger, smoothed his hair back and then put his hat on. It's not that weird. But the part that does bother me is that he keeps referencing this acne on Jagger's face. He keeps saying that there's these little red marks. And the biggest problem with that is there are pictures of Jagger, and I will show you a couple of them right here. And in these pictures would be literally the day that Kiely went missing, right? Because, well, I'm sorry, no, the day after. I'm sorry, I misspoke right there. They would literally be the day after, because I believe that, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure what happened was Kiely was reported missing somewhere around noon on Saturday, August 6th, and then early Sunday morning was when they started organizing the search parties, and all the kids got involved in doing the searching and all that kind of stuff. So this interview with Jagger and Kate would have been Sunday. So the very next day after Kiely was reported missing, there are pictures of Jagger, and he has no acne on his face. He doesn't even have any, like, freckles, or, I mean, he's got, I think, a couple moles, maybe off to the side of his cheek or whatever, but it's not something that you could have mistaken for, the guy points, like, right under his eyes, like in his cheek, nose kind of area, all these little red dots he calls acne. Well, Jagger doesn't have any of that. So, I don't know. And then he's saying that he's wearing the hat, the San Francisco hat. Well, I would dare to guess that a lot of boys in California probably have a San Francisco hat. And now, please do not get me wrong. I am not saying that Jagger is innocent. And I know that a lot of people out there do believe that he is. I personally don't. I personally don't believe that Jagger is innocent. And that actually, once again, doesn't have anything to do with any visions or anything like that I had. It just has to do with his behaviors, and I just don't buy his story. I don't buy his story as far as what his alibi was for the night and the morning after the party. So, if you're one of the people that believes that Jagger is innocent, that is fine. Just in my opinion, in the way that Jagger behaved and everything after Kiely was reported missing, it didn't sit right with me. So, that's something that we can disagree on if you think that Jagger is innocent of anything. And I'm not saying that he's necessarily the person that did something to Kiely, okay? I'm just saying that I don't believe that he is 100% innocent, or even a little bit innocent, to be honest. He knows a lot. Okay, so the other two small things that I just want to comment on really quickly, these things are, well, okay, the one thing is actually kind of major. He says that supposedly they had been there all night, this girl that he claims is Kiely and this boy that he's identifying as Jagger, but then he says that her phone is dead. Now, I don't believe the majority of what Sammy Smith has said in regards to Kiely's case. But like I've mentioned in other videos, I think that every time somebody comes out and speaks about these things, I feel like there's always a certain amount of truth in the lies. So a certain amount of actually factual things that happen do slip out here and there. And I think that people do that because they think that if they let these little things that are factual slip out, that it's going to make their whole story seem to be more believable. And one of the things that Sammy Smith had mentioned many times was that her and Kiely kept going back to Kiely's car to charge their phones and to get alcohol. Now, I think that part is true. I don't know that you can believe a single other word that Sammy Smith says, but I think that part is true. That they were going back to their vehicle, back to Kiely's vehicle, probably on several occasions to get more alcohol and to charge their phones. So here's what I'm finding weird, okay? If they were going back to her car to charge her phone, or to charge their phones rather, then why did Kiely's phone die at 12:33? Why was she not able to charge her phone? Why was she not able to have her own phone to call the tow truck guy or to get the call back when the tow truck guy supposedly called her to confirm the call? That has never sat right with me, that her phone was supposedly just dead. So this other person was lucky enough, this man, this boy, whatever, was lucky enough to have had enough of a charge on his phone. So either a charger was present or he just had the foresight to fully charge his phone before the party, apparently. But somehow Kiely, who supposedly had access to a car charger, throughout the rest of the night, suddenly was unable to charge her phone. Oh, and here's another thing that I find strange, is that supposedly they can call the tow truck guy and they can say, hey, our car won't start, but Kiely can't call her mom. She can't call any family members or any other friends and tell them that she's been stuck out here all night. Her mother, which, once again, I think that you should take what her mother is saying with a grain of salt, but at one point her mother had said that Kiely was the type of kid who was always checking in, that she was a good girl, that she was always saying, you know, Mom, I'm going to be home soon. Mom, this is where I'm at, you know, blah, blah, blah. And supposedly Kiely had actually texted her mother at one point and said, I'm going to be leaving the party in about 45 minutes and then I'll be home. So if Kiely was the kind of kid who was always checking in with mom and dad, then why in the world would she have sat out here at Boca Reservoir literally all night and never have used this other person's phone to tell her mother, at the very least, that she was stuck out here or something like that? You know, why would we have called AAA instead of calling our mom? And I know that some people are going to say, well, she was worried because she was going to get in trouble, because they'd been drinking, because they'd been doing whatever. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Because first of all, I'm pretty positive that her mother supplied the alcohol. Not to the entire party, but at least to Kiely and her friends. Once again, that is just my opinion. You know, I don't have any proof that Kiely's mother provided the alcohol, but I really think that she did. And I really think that she, fully knew what was going to happen. She fully knew that Kiely was going to a party. She knew there was going to be drinking. She knew there was probably going to be drugs. She knew there was probably going to be sex. You know, like, it's a teenage party. And I know Kiely was only 16, but kids grow up a lot faster nowadays than they did when I was a kid. So I don't think that her mom would have been in any way upset that, you know, she had done something quote unquote stupid and got herself into trouble and her car was broke down or whatever the case. So we called tow truck guy over mom. I don't know. Weird. That's weird to me. And the last little thing that's probably relatively insignificant is he keeps making reference to Kiely wearing a ball cap. Now, I'm not saying that Kiely never wore a ball cap. I don't know that. I didn't know the girl in her life. The only pictures that we've been able to see are just the pictures that have been released, you know, around the case, like I'm not even sure if they came from her Facebook or where they came from. But none of the pictures that they show of Kiely after she went missing was she wearing a ball cap. So I'm not saying that it's impossible that Kiely was wearing a ball cap. It just seems like maybe it wasn't really customary for her to be doing that. And also, you know, it's not impossible that she was, because, okay, maybe she was hungover, maybe she was trying to hide her eyes because she didn't want anybody to see that she had red bloodshot eyes or something like that. Like, I don't know. It's possible that she was wearing a ball cap. It just seems weird to me. It seems like some of the other girls that were her quote-unquote friends were more likely to wear ball caps than Kiely. And I know that that's relatively insignificant. I just found it strange, so I just wanted to mention it. Okay, so the very last thing that I do want to mention is that Nick, the tow truck guy, seems very, very confident that this girl was, in fact, Kiely Rodni. I'm skeptical about that. I know that they claim that they have video footage. I know that they claim that they have audio of this person. I wish that there was some way that we could see that. Because obviously, if we could see that if we could see that video and we could hear that audio, we would know if it was in fact Kiely Rodni. But that is information that only the tow truck company themselves actually has. Like, this dude is not going to have access to that video footage. I don't think so. And, you know, that footage has been turned over to the police. So it's in evidence. And really, I don't think that the tow truck company at that point in time would even legally be allowed to issue that video footage. I don't know. I don't know if it's illegal for them to do that or not, but I don't think they ever will. Regardless of whether they're allowed to or not, I don't think we will ever see that footage. So the only thing that we are able to do is just take Nick, the tow truck guy's word for it that it was in fact Kiely Rodni that he saw. In my opinion, that doesn't fit. You know, I'm not saying that he didn't have a call. I'm not saying that he didn't interact with a blonde girl and a guy that looked like Jagger. As a matter of fact, in the vision that I did have, I did see this interaction, although what I had seen was a bit different than what he's explaining. So I don't know that I'm actually going to ever do a video on the visions that I had about Kiely's case. And I don't want anybody to get upset about that. The only reason that I'm hesitant to do it is because of stuff like this. You know, like this guy is basically coming out and naming Jagger as being the guy who's there. And I don't necessarily think that he's wrong about that. I just think that some of the things that he's saying don't really fit. So it makes me question, you know, like the whole situation really. I do want to make a video about the visions that I had around Kiely's death, but at the same time I don't. Because I really just don't want to deal with everyone coming at me and being like, oh, well, this was proven to not be true, and this person was proven innocent, and that person was this and that, and, you know, I don't know that I really want to deal with the repercussions of that. So, I don't know. Let me know in the comments, you guys, if you really, really want me to do a video about the vision that I had. Now, keep in mind that this was several months of, well, maybe not several months, but at least probably maybe a month or so of separate visions that I was able to put together as kind of one timeline. So if I did do a video on my visions of Kiely Rodni's death, it would be a relatively long video, but it would be, a compilation essentially of all of the visions that I had around her death, and not just one continuous 45-minute long vision or anything like that. So anyway, just let me know in the comments. If you want me to do that video, then let me know in the comments. I'll see how many people respond, and then I will seriously consider it. But as of right now, I'm still very hesitant to do that. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. I really don't have a whole lot more to say about it. So, just let's go ahead and let's start a conversation. Say whatever you want to say, ask questions, things of that nature in the comments. We can create a dialogue. That's perfectly fine. And then we'll just go from there, okay? So I believe that I have rambled quite enough. So I am going to go ahead and wrap this up. As always, thank you so much for listening. I will definitely be talking to everyone again very, very soon. Bye.